Dear Danny Collins, Yoko and I read your interview. Being rich and famous doesn't change the way you think. It doesn't corrupt your art. Only you can do that. So what do you think about that, Danny Collins? Stay true to your music. Stay true to yourself. My phone number is below. Call me. We can discuss this. We can help. Love, John.
A clip there from Danny Collins, and I'm delighted to be joined now by its star, Al Pacino.
Oh.
You well?
Well, I'm still here. That's why it's good to hear it. You know, it's yes, I'm doing fine.
Good, good.
Whatever.
And a great film as well. Really enjoyed
wow.
it.
Thank you.
I'm wondering about the moment when it landed on your doorstep and you picked it up and you started reading it. What was the pull about the script for Danny Collins that made you say, yes, this is the one for me?
Actually, I went and read it aloud with actors for Dan Fogelman, who had written it. And because I read it and thought, there's something in this script that is reaching me somehow. And so I like to read a script aloud. It's somehow, I guess that's the way I was brought up in the theater and stuff. So we all got together and I read it aloud. And it was clear that there was something about it that really that moved everyone in the room, because it has a heart, you know, and it's alive. So I said, look, let me think about it more. And we read it again, and it was fun to read. And I thought this could be a movie. And I said, well, I would gladly be in it, and I'm grateful that you want me. He wrote it with me in mind. That's always an advantage, you know. It's just the director wants you. I had that with The Godfather. Francis Coppola wanted me in it, and it was, you know, it was quite an advantage for an actor when the visionary, because Dan also wrote it and was directing it, sees you in the part. So it's an advantage.
And would you say that the scripts that you're saying yes to at the moment, do you think it's a certain type of thing that's appealing to you, and has that changed over the years?
Well, I think that has, yeah. I think when you start to think about what is more appropriate for your cycle, because I believe that's what we all go through. You know, as we age, we get into different veins of ourselves, and you want to express something closer to that, or something with movies especially. The role needs to be more suited for you. So this seemed, I was at the appropriate age. It seemed right that this could be something that I would be able to relate to. But I think the other movie I made, which is The Humbling, that I was adapted from Philip Roth's novel.
This is the Barry Levinson film.
Barry Levinson film. I pretty much felt it was more of a. I felt closer to it in the sense that it was about an actor who was losing his ability to, or his desire to act anymore. So that was very interesting to me, and we made a movie of that. Which I don't know, did it come out here yet?
It did come out here.
Oh,
yeah.
it did, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a. I didn't know it did.
It came out to rent and to watch.
Oh, to rent and to watch. Yeah, because we were it came out in the States, but this had the same sort of appeal to me, but it was a much lighter thing. It was more. It was just a different kind of story. The character was going through different things. He was not losing his senses. He was gaining other things, you know. I don't know why I brought the other film up, but it was really an example or a sample of stuff that you do. Like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have thought about doing The Humbling, for instance.
Yeah.
But I think I always would have thought of doing Danny Collins. Because it's not just age appropriate. It's a character I relate to simply because I enjoy someone who has the ability to survive through so many different things. And when Danny Collins first came on the scene, he was touted as the next Bob Dylan, and he was able to. And then he gets the interview, and in the interview, he's really nervous about fame and everything that's going on and stuff. So he's concerned about that, and then he does another album, and he's eviscerated, and it's a terrible experience for him because the great expectations, and he falls flat. And his album doesn't sell, and he gets terrible notices. And he's 21 years old, and there's nothing in front of him. This kind of stuff happens. And to see him sort of adjust to that, to see him go into another, to take whatever is left. He stops writing for sure, because he just doesn't have that kind of confidence. And that letter from John Lennon would have really helped at that time, you know. And it would have really helped him, because Lennon was telling him, in essence, you just keep going and do what you do. He needed that kind of support. But instead, he found other avenues. You know, he went into more entertainment. You see, he was kind of nice looking and charming, and he could put over a song. And he was a bit of a MC, in a sense, a master of ceremonies. And he used that to his advantage and became that kind of an entertainer, and just moved away from the writing, which was, maybe he was only good for a few songs. I mean, it happens in poetry all the time. It happens in a lot of things. You just do something, you're inspired at a time, and naturally, if you continue in your work, you will go through failures and things like that. That's part of the experience. It's desire. And I think that's what, in The Humbling, why I brought up The Humbling, is that this actor's desire goes, his appetite to do it goes, but it goes because he's unable to really retain the words. He doesn't have the stamina to do stage, the great Shakespearean roles anymore, which he did, and he loses interest mainly because he's losing his tools. But Danny goes and tries again, but it's also funny. That's I feel The Humbling is funny too, because Buck Henry wrote it. I think in order to tell these stories in a way that is that the characters in the story itself is malleable, and that the audience goes along on the journey because they're laughing at some of the ironies in it, and some of the humor is what keeps it afloat. This is innately funny because Dan Fogelman writes that way. He did Crazy Stupid Love and stuff, and but he has this heart underneath it.
And you really see that comedy with a heart, I think, in Christopher Plummer's character, of course, who you've worked with before on The Insider, just with some great one-liners from Christopher.
I tell you the truth, I wrote him a note afterward because he's a friend. But I say to him, where did you? I was working with you. We were doing. How do you come up with a character like? And he always does. He finds some way, and it looks, because he becomes so natural in the role. You think, then you see it on screen, and it's such a definitive character, so fully drawn and existing. He has just flesh and blood. You see it there. It's alive. I love Chris Plummer.
This is a non-actor's question, okay? Yeah. But you're in a situation like that, and you've got Christopher Plummer next to you, and there are jokes, there are one-liners. Do you still keep a straight face, or do you corpse?
I tell you, there are times I'm a big laugher, you know, and especially on stage, when you don't have to do it again. With movies, you can do it again, but in the theater, you have to keep going. And so what you do is you just turn up stage and start laughing, right? I've had these situations. I don't do it as much anymore. But you're in that situation and something comes up. But if it's in the text, then fine. I mean, I don't laugh after the third time. You know, you're interfering with progress. You know, they're going to do it again. It's costing money, the lights. You know, but if it's spontaneous and not in the text, you know, and it's a little bit off key, you know, I'll laugh. I'll pretty much be the first one to laugh.
Well, we're really going to go off track now because we've got some listener questions which are about all different aspects of your career.
It.
So
questions are great.
We'll start off with, I like this one from Kieran.
Yeah.
Any Given Sunday, the motivational speech. We all know it, very famous, YouTube, thousands of hits.
Yes.
Do you wish you had royalties for that because it is now so famous?
Yes.
Very simple answer, thank you. This is from Mark Searby. If you could remake any of your films, which would it be?
Half of them.
Oh, really? Wow, that many?
Well, I thought I only did about 8 films, but it seems like I've done more. No, I guess I would not, because the difficulty redoing something and but I imagine if I were to sit down, you had the time, I would be able to find a few that I would like to redo. Yes, for sure.
I'm sure not this one, because this one won you your Oscar, which was Scent of a Woman. This is from Gary. Now, there's a very famous catchphrase in that, which is hoo-ha.
Yes, yeah.
Gary wants to know, was that in the script? Was that an improvised thing? How did that come about?
Well, I was in doing the work on a performance, you know, sometimes you get caught up in different things, and I had a lieutenant colonel every day working with me and teaching me how to assemble and then disassemble a .45 weapon of a gun. And I had to do it blind. So I worked on it and practiced it. And then one day I would do it, and he would say, hoo-ah, hoo-ah. And I thought, what's that? And he says, this is what he practiced with his people. It was you know, a way of suggesting or intimating that they're doing well. So by saying, hoorah, you know, you did it well. And so when I would assemble the 45 in a certain amount of time, he would go, hoorah. So I thought, that's going to stay. You know, sometimes that's how you do it. You know, certain things appeal to you, and to me it felt right. So it was a military expression, and it sort of was appropriate for this character to have that because he was a lieutenant colonel, the character I played in the movie.
Al Pacino, thank you very much.
Wow, that was quick.
Thank you.
Thank you.